Do you have to wear that ridiculous hat? I like it. Why? It makes you look like you have one tire in the sand. What does that mean? It means you're not the sharpest tool in the shed. What? Never mind. By the way, you still owe me some money, so don't forget. I won't. Are you ready to start the show? Yes, sir. Greetings, imaginary can of worms. Once again it is I, your semolina of cinnamon, your vicar of very silly attitudes, and the arched back of Frankenberry, D.L. Alley. And who might you be?
I'm Claude Pohl. I'm the ape, the abolisher of problematic excrement.
What? Anyway, welcome to 11 Views, Milking the Movies. What's this show about, Claude?
We drink milk and talk about movies.
That's right. And speaking of milk, today's selection is Silk Unsweet Organic Almond Milk. Shall we? Here you go. You got it? Cheers. That's the good stuff. So, which movie did we watch this week, Claude?
I forget.
A Clockwork Orange.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know why I picked this one?
Naked Dummies?
No. I picked it because Alex and his droogs frequent the Korova Milk Bar. They serve Milk Plus, which is milk mixed with various legal drugs.
Why do they serve that?
Because they don't need a liquor license.
Oh.
Well, it looks like we've run over time, but as some of you know, I wrote a book that recently became available in paperback. That's right, The Mill Spun Thread is now available. So how do we end the show, Claude?
By clicking the button?
Yes, but what do we say before that?
Oh. Everyone in heat has a story from hell that you have Yeti ears. All your hats with dew will glisten.
And?
Have a butter knife?
No, we use that one.
Have a water flight?
No.
Ever setter?
What?
Oh!
Good night.
Well, we are live.
Yes, we are.
That was a strange glitch in the Matrix. What was that?
Naked dummies.
Naked dummies. I don't know about that. I don't know what that was. Are you excited to do tonight's show?
I am.
I mean, I think we got a really good movie for the folks at home.
Yes, we do.
Very, very excited. You'd never seen this, had you?
No, I hadn't.
You know, this used to be, I mean, it probably still is considered like one of the 10 great science fiction films of all time.
Really?
Well, you don't buy it? Okay, good.
Absolutely.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you see that. Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your sommelier of cinema, Robert Meyer Burnett, and I'm here with my trusty compadre, the lovely, who are you?
Elizabeth Gwendolyn Bell. I am the ace, the arbiter of cinematic excellence, and the enchantress of entertainment.
The enchantress of entertainment. And what is
Yes.
this show?
This is Elizabeth's whining about the movies.
Do you know that this is Whining About Movies, episode 65?
Wow.
65.
That's insane.
And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special film. Why don't we pour up some wine?
Let's do that.
Because this is Whining About Movies. Tonight we have Scotto Family Cellars, a Pinot Noir from 2018. And I would imagine this comes from Trader Joe's.
It does.
Well, why don't you give me your glass and I'll pour it up.
Pour it up, babe.
As Katowski says on Earl Grey, pour up, whatever the hell that is. So, this movie is, well, first of all, let's Let me wait a minute. I gotta get a little snort more in there. First of all, let's drink to this. This is Robert Wise, the man who co-directed West Side Story, who edited Citizen Kane, who directed Day the Earth Stood Still. He directed Star Trek: The Motion Picture. I mean, this man, legend in our time. And this film is his 1971 adaptation of Michael Crichton's novel.
Didn't he also direct The Sound of Music?
He also... I wasn't going to say anything, but I'm glad to hear you interrupt. He also directed The Sound of Music, so it's Robert Wise's second time here on Whining About the Movies. Now, let's cheers to that, first of all.
Cheers.
All right. Mm-hmm. That's tasty. Now, the Andromeda Strain is an adaptation of Michael Crichton, who created ER, who wrote Jurassic Park, who directed the film Westworld. He directed The Great Train Robbery. He was also a doctor. And while he was in medical school, he started to write novels, and he wrote 6 novels under 2 different pen names, because he didn't want any of his professors or anyone in his medical school.
Think less of him.
Yeah, they didn't want to think less of him. Like, he wasn't paying enough attention in school.
Right.
So he'd written 6 novels previous to the Andromeda Strain. Some were award-winning, and this was the first novel that he wrote under his own name. And he became friends with Steven Spielberg back in the day, because Spielberg once showed Michael Crichton around the lot at Warner Brothers when he was at Universal when he was directing television.
Oh.
So they had been friends all the way back to this time. And what's really interesting is this book was written as if it actually happened. It did not. Everything you see is fictional, but the movie sort of adapted that kind of style. It's almost like you're watching a docudrama, a procedural. But I think this movie has peak verisimilitude. It has special effects by Douglas Trumbull. I think this is a fantastic film, and you'd never seen it before.
I'd never seen it. This was the first time.
It was the first time you saw it, and you were riveted.
Oh my God, yes.
And I think the film is 49 years old, and it has lost none of its potency, none of its power, and it is... The premise is irresistible. First of all, I should say that we were watching it on the recently released Arrow Blu-ray that ports over Laurent Bozarot's special features from the early aughts, and the transfer is absolutely gorgeous. It is just beautiful looking, and the electronic music score by Gil Mellier, it's a French word, Mellier. Well, it's an electronic score. It's great. I mean, when you hear the music, it harkens back to the electronic score Forbidden Planet. I mean, this film truly is one of the great science fiction films ever made. Now, when I was growing up, when I first saw this movie, the opening scared the hell out of me. It scared me to death. And watching it again now, I hadn't seen this in a while, but it has lost none of its power, none of its potency. Yeah. And this is truly, and it remains, one of the great sci-fi films of all time. And it's certainly, watching it today, it has extra added resonance. So, Elizabeth, what is this movie about?
So. Are we going through the plot?
Yes.
All right. So it starts off with these 2, what are they, military guys?
They're from the Air Force, Vandenberg Air Force Base.
Yeah.
And they have gone to Piedmont, New Mexico, the town of Piedmont, New Mexico, and they are looking for a crashed satellite.
Right.
And this crashed satellite was sent from a group called Scoop. And the premise of Scoop is that they were going to search the upper atmosphere and into outer space to see if there's microbes or viruses or anything that's actually alive in the vacuum of space. And indeed, Michael Crichton got the idea for this because he had read in a book, there was like a 1-sentence throwaway that I think it was a doctor of anthropology. He was discussing anthropology or mutation, genetic, and he said no one had ever searched the upper atmosphere of the Earth for microbes and viruses.
Well, he said something like, there's no science fiction author that has written about microbes in space or something.
In the upper atmosphere.
Yeah.
And that's where he got the idea. Just that one throwaway sentence.
Just that one sentence, yep.
So and what happens? What do these two officers find?
These 2 officers are looking. They're looking for the satellite, and they are they stumble across this town and they notice a
A
dead,
very small town, like 68 people.
very small, and they notice a dead body, and they think it's a dead because it's at night, and they think
Yeah, I have to say the only thing that it dates this movie is the opening scene is shot day for night.
right.
And nowadays, I mean, back then, day for night was a common affectation. Now they not so much, but it's beautiful widescreen photography, so it's okay. You go with it.
You go with it. And they stumble upon a dead body. And so they call their superior or their base or whatever and tell them. They start freaking out. And then,
They drive into town. They drive into town to go. The objective is to recover the satellite.
Right.
And at this point, all they know is the satellite has crashed there. Like, it didn't splash down where it's supposed to. It crashed by this town. So they don't, other than the dead body, there's nothing, they don't suspect necessarily there's anything wrong.
Right.
Just that it's odd. So they go in, and it's a great scene that you hear entirely from Vandenberg Air Force Base, and you hear it over the radio. And the two guys go into town, and you hear them talking about, and suddenly they say, there's more bodies. Mm-hmm. You know, and something is going on. I mean, clearly there's nothing good happening here.
Yeah.
And then
they start seeing like these pile of bodies, these little piles of bodies.
but we don't know exactly what they've seen yet because they're only telling us over the radio.
Or what they see are birds. They see buzzards flying
No, they haven't.
around.
No, we're not there yet.
Oh, am I jumping ahead?
They see. You're right.
Yeah, the guys on the ground.
Yeah.
Who are looking for the satellite.
Yeah, they see buzzards.
They see buzzards, and then they start seeing bodies.
But they only seen one body, but they see the buzzards, and that's when they go into town.
Yeah, and they're like, why would there be buzzards? There's only buzzards for one reason.
Bodies. So we hear it over the radio. Then you hear this horrible noise. Something happens, and then the line stays open, but no more sound.
Right.
Something has happened to these two guys. But we don't know what it is.
Right.
And then they send in a plane
to fly over.
I don't know if I think it's a Phantom, like an F-4A Phantom. They send in a plane with cameras and all kinds of things, and it's pretty cool. You see it from the pilots, the cameras on the pilot, and the pilot sees all kinds of bodies.
Yeah, he flies back and forth over the town, and he just sees these piles of bodies, strewn outside.
Yeah, strewn outside, and so they know something bad has happened.
Yes.
And then the leader of Scoop, Project Scoop, who's one of the great character actors that was just about in every single thing in the movie, Major Manchek. This author's name is Ramon Barry, Major Arthur Manchek, and he's the head of Scoop, and it's really great. He goes in, he knows the worst case scenarios happen. He goes in this room where there's like a red phone, and he's got a special key and puts it in, and calls up and says, "There's like a fire burning."
Right.
You know, that's the code word.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, then we cut to what? Multiple scenes where they do what?
Where?
Well, the military goes and gathers up doctors, a team of.
Oh, right. So
and the first place they go is to our.
I thought you meant them. They meet, like certain people from Scoop meet in a meeting, and they start discussing what to do.
Right. Yes.
And they even end up calling the president.
Mm-hmm.
And they're also gathering up scientists to go figure out what this is.
Yeah, and Arthur Hill plays Jeremy Stone, and he's the first person they gather.
Right.
And they're having a party, and it's a very late 60s, early 70s dinner party at a very nice house in Washington. Mm-hmm. And these very formidable military guys, this captain of the Air Force shows up with another guy and a bunch of dudes with guns.
Yes.
And they take away Jeremy Stone.
Right.
And there's a group of doctors, a team of doctors.
And one thing that happens when they take him from the party is his wife, she calls her dad, who's the senator,
mm-hmm.
and she's wondering, like, what is happening. And the line gets cut off, and it says something like,
it's a matter of national security.
Yeah.
You will be briefed at the appointed time. And what's so cool about this whole opening is, you know, it's very immediate. Like even now, the pacing of it, it's very matter of fact, but it's very relentless. I mean, it builds upon, it just keeps building, and the suspense is there, and it's very intriguing, and it's done in it's very adult.
It is.
It's very like by the numbers.
It's very intelligent, and it's very, you can tell that it's very scientifically correct.
Right. And we still don't quite know what's going on, and I love the fact that he used the code term, Dr. Stone, there's a fire burning.
Right.
And he just doesn't hesitate. He's like, honey, I gotta go.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you
Yeah.
and it's.
And then they go and they get the surgeon, the doctor.
Yeah.
And he's about to do surgery, and they're like, you need to come with us.
Yeah, there's a young surgeon, there's Dr. Stone, and then there's sort of the iconoclast. You don't know if she's a lesbian, but she'd be a lesbian if they made the movie today. The iconoclast lesbian scientific researcher, and then there's kind of another older doctor who deals with virology and infections and all that. So it's 4 team members, and it's great because the older doctor and the lesbian scientist are like the hippies. Yes. They're like the anti-establishment
They are.
Hippies. So they're constantly talking about how there's distrust and
it's great, and their back and forth is really good. It seems so real, you know, and I love her character. She's
great.
Yeah, she's great. She's like very direct.
Right. And then it cuts to the 2 doctors, Dr. Stone and the young. So Kate Reed, there's James Olsen as Dr. Mark Hall. He's the surgeon. Mm-hmm. And then there's David Wayne as Charles Dutton, and Kate Reed is Dr. Ruth Levette. Oh wait, maybe Mark Hall's the older guy and Charles Dutton's the younger guy. I don't know which one is which. I don't remember.
Mark Hall, I think, is the younger guy.
Okay, so
Dr. Hall.
Yeah, so Dr. Hall and Dr. Hill, we meet.
Dr. Hill, I don't know.
Well, Dr. Hill's the guy who started the thing. So anyway, the younger surgeon and Dr. Hill, we next meet them on a helicopter wearing very futuristic looking, like biohazard suits.
Right.
And they're being flown into Piedmont, to the town of Piedmont, and they see the buzzards flying, and they immediately say, we have to kill all of these buzzards. All the birds have to die. So the 2 scientists...
but they're in hazmat suits.
Yeah, they're in hazmat suits, so they're dropped off.
A guy who's flying the helicopter is also in a hazmat suit. Because what happened was...
we don't have to much later.
Okay, so the helicopter hovers above, and they climb a ladder down, and they go in wearing their hazmat suits, and they start walking through the town.
But they see the buzzards are eating the dead bodies.
Right.
So in order to neutralize the spread of whatever's there, they drop gas and they kill all the buzzards.
They have to, because then the buzzards might take the whatever it is,
spread the infection.
Whatever it is. So they decide to kill the birds, which they do.
And then the team, the 2 doctors, walk through the town, and they see that it's very interesting. There's a very interesting technique where they use split screen and they isolate images, which is kind of strange.
It's so 70s, but it works so well in this film because it really, it's intense. Like, they're looking in a window and you only see them on one side of the screen.
Yeah.
And then when they're looking in, then they show you, like, the dead body and, like, next to them.
And I think one of the reasons they did that, there's a lot of, from the opening credits, which are very cool, they're always dealing with teletype and graphics and printouts, and it's the only thing that kind of dates the movie. You know, there is.
I love it.
I love it. There's
so
super
cool.
secret. There's great computer technology, but there's lots of teletypes and stuff.
Yes.
And the teletypes, so you're reading all this, even the opening credits.
Uh-huh.
So it's almost like when you see these pictures, it's almost like you're reading a report. Like when you see it would be something like you'd be reading on
the secret report.
And it just heightens the whole idea that what you're seeing is all top secret, and I thought it was a very interesting technique that I've never really seen. I mean, movies like Carrie use split screen and stuff, Brian De Palma does, but in this film, it really accentuates the idea that you're almost reading a report after the fact, which we kind of are.
Well, it also intensifies the terror, because they're looking in the window, and then all of a sudden they show you this dead body, and it could be a kid or it could be an old lady.
And they don't flinch. They show you dead
kids and
dead girls.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the deeper they go in and start investigating inside the buildings, They find people who, like a woman who committed suicide, a guy who
She hung herself.
who drowned himself in his bathtub. So then they think, okay, the people outside died instantly, but then there were some people who didn't die instantly and who killed themselves.
Yeah, they thought it was Judgment Day or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's pretty hardcore.
It's hardcore.
I mean, and when I saw this movie on TV for the first time when I was a kid, and this really scared me.
Yeah, I could see it could totally scare a kid.
But I loved it. Because it was one of those things, and I probably saw this movie, I don't know, when I was 8 or 9. Because I would watch anything to do... This movie sounded like it was science fiction because the word Andromeda. I'd heard of the Andromeda Galaxy, so I watched this. But it's funny, watching it now, I had sense memories of seeing this as a kid. Mm-hmm. And the thing that really stuck with me when I was a kid, something I never forgot, is they actually cut the wrist of a dead body. And the blood has been completely turned to sand.
Yeah.
And it pours out. And,
like
I'd never seen, that was so graphic for me.
Well, they did that to so the doctor... They go into the doctor's office, and that's where the satellite is, and they're like, "Oh shit, here it is!" And then,
the town doctor's office is where they took the satellite,
right?
And the doctor opened the satellite.
Yes, and what they did notice outside was that the blood, like where the birds had eaten the body, there was no blood pouring out. It was just a wound. And so when they got to the doctor's office, then they're like, there's something weird about the blood. So they cut his wrist, and all the sand, all the blood turned to
completely clotted,
sand.
And it dried out.
Yep. And it was pouring out.
And it had to have happened instantaneously almost.
Yeah.
And so when I was a kid, I mean, this was scary stuff.
Yeah.
And the way it's presented, it's presented so matter-of-factly and so clinically that it felt really heavy. Like, It's like, and it still does. Watching it now again.
Yeah.
And this is it's a widescreen film. I mean, Robert Wise does a great job of using the wide aspect ratio, the 2:3:5 or 2:3:9 to 1 aspect ratio. It's very effective. Because even in a small town, that wide gauge aspect ratio, when you see multiple bodies in the frame, it's really creepy.
It is.
And it's really scary. And it's like reading, one of the things about reading a Michael Crichton novel is there's an immediacy to it where you're completely sucked in. And this movie was like reading I've read The Andromeda Strain, and it was like reading, it's a really great adaptation of the book.
I would figure.
So what happens when they've been searching?
They find the satellite, and so they take it outside, and the helicopter starts heading towards, picking them up. But they hear something. They hear like a baby crying in the distance, and they start running towards the sound of the baby, and the helicopter comes right above them. And they're like, "Go away, go away!" And so the helicopter goes away, and then they find the baby, and the baby's just there in the crib, and they can't believe it. There's a survivor, and it's a baby.
And then also, when they're dealing with the baby, they come out and an old man is there.
Yes.
Like an old, the town drunk is there.
He comes running up to him with a knife, and they take him too. So they take the baby and the old guy, who didn't seem that old.
Well, he was just a drunk.
And they take them in the helicopter.
They take him in the helicopter, and then it goes to the next point, and you find out that Dr. Hill spearheaded a group that presumably once America landed on the moon and we were reaching out into space, there was an idea that what if, while in space, there is some kind of a virus or an extraterrestrial contagion that our astronauts bring back to Earth, and we are ill-equipped to deal with. So they say it's like, I don't know, $80 million or something. It seems not that much. I mean, now it'd be like $80 billion. But they have built the Wildfire Laboratory, and it's in the Nevada desert. It's like 150 miles away from Las Vegas. And it's 5 stories. It's hundreds of feet down in the ground. And is the most technologically advanced laboratory in the world.
Yeah, when they showed this and all the levels, and because he explains to them once they get there, like, you're going to start off in level 1, and then there's going to be like these different levels of decontamination.
Yeah, you have to get decontaminated
until you reach the bottom, and you're going to be like so clean. You're going to be so decontaminated. And just the way it's created, that whole space, the way, like, the levels, I just was like, wow, this is so amazing. I thought it was really, really cool.
Yeah, and so the 4 doctors, the 2 doctors in town, and then our hippies, the virologist, and then, well, they all do different disciplines, but the 4 of them all come together at this lab that's disguised as an agricultural center.
Right.
And they all go, and it's a working agricultural center. But the whole thing about this is, you want to believe, what's really interesting is you actually do believe that this place is real. I still, to this day, believe there must be a lab like this in real life. I mean, there has to, even though I know Michael Crichton made this up, but it feels so real. And why wouldn't we have? Like, if we don't have it now, we should have it.
We should. It's very smartly created, I think.
Yeah. And if this movie were made today, they would never spend as much time showing us the decontamination process. Like, part of what's
Which I found fascinating.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So you like that?
I loved it.
So what we see is how they descend. You hear all about the lab, and part of the attraction of this movie is this laboratory. It's obviously the star front and center, and they're talking about the technology, but they take you through the different levels of decontamination, and it's going to take like a day and a half to get all the way down. I mean, they do things like you have to get all the hair burned off of your body, and you have to put up like the suppository up your ass that'll clean out your digestive tract. They do everything they can to make the human body completely germ-free.
Right.
And it's not something you would normally think about.
Right.
And in a movie today, they just show you, they wouldn't, the first note for the script would be like, you don't need to show them going down all the levels. Just have them show up on the level 5.
No way, because it really gives you a sense that it's super important to be completely decontaminated, and that whole process doesn't just happen. Like, you don't just go like you see in movies now. The decontamination is usually like, you know, you're in a hazmat suit and you go and this liquid just drenches you, and then you come out the other side and you're decontaminated.
And they do that. They have a decontamination like a
That's just the start.
Yeah, and it's I mean, it's so fun to watch this technology. I mean, it really, even though this movie's 41 or 49 years old, it's totally intriguing. Now, it's not to say...
And each level, it has a color. So you know, like, when they're descending, it gets, you know, the color. First, the color starts off, like, really bright and alarming. Like, it's orange. And then as they go further and further down, it's, like, more calming colors, more, you know, neutral.
Yeah.
Which I found also fascinating.
And then also, you know that there is a nuclear device is at the bottom of this lab. So if it goes foobar in there, that device goes off to neutralize whatever threat is there.
And they picked a single male to
the young
have
doctor,
the
the young surgeon,
because he has no attachment. So if he did have to use the key, he wouldn't feel like he couldn't, because he has a wife and he has a child or whatever. Yeah,
and Dr. Hill, our main doctor who designed this facility, calls it his odd man out theory. The odd, because if you're the man that has no, you will have no problem turning
the key.
And so the threat of nuclear annihilation is ever present here, and this could be a one-way trip.
Yes.
All the way down, and it's so great. Like, it's very sort of, it brings up Dante and the levels of hell. I mean, they're literally descending down.
Yeah.
And again, it's so well done, and the production design is so great, and it really feels plausible.
It does.
And at the same time, they have the satellite being lowered down, and then they have the baby and the old man being lowered down to level 5, and they're going to be in clean rooms, and you're not going to be able, they're going to have to be analyzed, and they're going to have to figure out, like, this virulent extraterrestrial, they don't know what it is, a virus, a life form, what is it?
Yeah, they don't know yet.
And then, I mean, it takes like an hour The movie's 130 minutes long, and they spend a long time with the setup, but it's so intriguing. And it's just like a Michael Crichton novel. I mean, all these ideas. There's so many interesting ideas, and it's like you're turning the pages. You can't get there fast enough. It's so great. It's so well done.
It is.
So, and once they're down in the lab, then what happens?
Yeah, so they're down in the lab, and now they are doing their tests and trying to figure out what this is. They don't know anything about it. They're trying to figure out, is it airborne? How does it transmit? What,
Is it a virus? Is it
what is
organism?
It? Where is it on the satellite? So they're like investigating everything.
And I have to say that there's other doctors that are already in this facility to offer support. And one of the secondary characters is a black woman.
Yeah, she's the nurse.
She's a nurse, and she's very attractive and very capable. And I thought it was really interesting.
She's very knowledgeable. Like, she knows...
Yeah, she knows her shit. And what was interesting, now somebody would make some comment. I even said to you, like, oh, here's where people would say this is the token, the diversity thing. No, but it feels very natural. And this was a movie that was made 49 years ago. And she was just a really interesting character.
She was.
Really good at her job. And was just very matter-of-factly presented. And in terms of like representation and things like that, that's how representation is done. And it was very interesting that she's like the fifth team member. And
she is.
And I really liked that. I really liked her character.
Yeah. Yes. So, they're doing all these tests and trying to figure everything out. And
now it goes into like medical mystery mode.
Yeah.
And
so
you get to see...
have the different teams working on different parts of the mystery. And the doctor with the nurse are treating the patients and trying to figure out, why did these two survive?
And they even have great things where they have to slide into these suits that are still connected. I mean, through like this these big like curtains.
Connected to the main lab, like the enclosed.
Right, because they can never come and go with their suits, so they're the suit's already in there.
Yep.
But it's connected, it's all airtight.
Which looks so cool.
It looks so cool. And all of this technology, it really feels authentic. And
it does.
Again, there's a minimal use of special effects, but there's lots of stuff on view screens and all of these things. And at the same time, they've done things like they've asked the President of the United States to drop a nuclear bomb on Piedmont, New Mexico, to sterilize and to stop that from spreading. And that becomes like, are they going to do it? The president postpones it at first and isn't going to do it.
He postpones it, but there's a glitch in the messaging between the lab and the people who are on the surface.
Yeah, just a little piece of paper.
It was blocking the little bell which indicates if there's a message or not. And so, luckily, thank God, because it saved everybody's lives.
Right.
A message gets stuck. And
so despite all of this technology, a little piece of paper can stop it, can just wedge in there. Yeah. Like anybody who used a copy machine knows that happens all the time. Yes. And so even though they give you all this technology, they still say, well, we're not infallible.
That's right.
I mean, you might have the greatest lab in the world, but one piece of paper and a little message printout could,
Yep.
cause the world to end.
Or not. It's fate. And
then basically, you go through this whole really interesting. There's all this stuff going on, and the two teams are working together, and they're trying to figure out what it is. And they finally isolate what it is
on the
satellite, and it turns out it's like crystalline. And it's biological, but it's crystalline. It's very extraterrestrial. It's not like a virus. It's something that could only have come from space.
Yeah.
And
it eats plastic.
Yeah, and it can eat plastic, and it can reproduce. And it turns out that it thrives on X-rays and energy. So if they dropped a nuclear device on Piedmont, it would just turn it into what they call the supercluster.
Yeah. And it would just spread like crazy.
It would spread like crazy, and we have no defense against it. So the threat level of this thing goes up and up and up and up and up and up.
So when they finally discover that the messaging hasn't been going through, this is before they discover, how this thing grows.
Right.
And so they're like, why hasn't the president bombed Piedmont? What is it called? Piedmont. And so they're like, send a message right away. Make sure that the president, nukes it. And then like 5 minutes later, like, oh, this is how it grows. Oh shit. So like, no. Tell him not to.
Yeah, don't.
Do not.
And there's a fail-safe device that if contamination happens in the lab, the nuclear device in the lab has a 5-minute delay, but it's going to go off. And the only way to turn it off is to use the key that our odd man out has, our young doctor has.
Yeah.
But it won't. If the level is contaminated, it doesn't work anymore.
Well, yeah, they shut down all the doors shut down, and so he wouldn't even be able to get to the key.
No, and so there's this great medical mystery. Now, did you find that as riveting as the rest of the film?
Oh yeah, I love medical mysteries.
I mean, if you love House, Doctor, you love ER.
When I was in high school, I had two choices. I could either become, my biology teacher wanted me to become a surgeon, and then my art teacher wanted me to become an artist. So science and biology have always been a big part of my interest.
Oh, so you must have loved this.
Loved it.
This must have been like catnip for you.
Oh my God, great. So, yeah. But what's a little heartbreaking is the experimentation on the animals, using the animals. I know it's necessary.
Oh, and by the way, that was hardcore.
The monkeys?
Yeah, I mean, and what they do is they experiment on rats and monkeys, and it shows how lethal this virus is.
Yes.
I mean, it gets into your system, and it immediately
Yeah,
powders your blood.
Yes, and when the monkey is exposed and it just starts trembling and then it dies.
And they have these long. If you have problems with animals dying, they have these. Well, they're not that long because it happens so fast. But they have these shots where the camera shows you the animal being, and it's all mechanized, and they're using arms to get everything, and it's so well done. But the animals represent life, and when you see them, and they come down, you're hoping that nothing's going to happen, and then they like. There's one monkey where you don't know how they did it. It's like having a seizure, and the monkey
I was wondering, did they hurt that monkey?
No, because in the credits they talk about it, they make a big deal about how the Humane Society was on set all the time, and no animals. I mean, they must have used tranquilizers or something like that. But it's hard to watch if you like animals. It's tough to watch. Sarah Hunt would not want to watch those rats being.
No.
Our friend Bill Hunt's wife Sarah loves, and so does Bill. They would not like the deaths of animals in this movie. But it serves to show how lethal this disease really is and how quickly it works.
I'm just going to trust that none of those animals were harmed.
None of those animals were harmed.
Although by now they're passed away.
Well, yes, they made this movie 49 years ago.
But I hope that they lived a long and beautiful life.
Honey, I'm sure, let's drink to the animals. I'm sure they lived a long and beautiful life.
Although rats only live a couple years to begin with.
Well, I mean, do you think the rats were like, hey man, I was in the Andromeda strain.
Monkeys, they
can live a long time.
Yeah.
So that's tough, but the medical mystery of how they're going through all this and how they isolate the virus and how they see the virus, the way the virus is represented, it's really well done. Mm-hmm. And it's very scary. And now, there's been a lot of stuff. I mean, we've watched medical shows where this is a virulent strain, and now, there's a whole genre of, like, I have to tell you, one of my favorite things, I've said it before, I love any story that deals with plagues, diseases, outbreaks, pandemics. Since I was a little kid, since I read Graham Masterton's Plague when I was at the Flying Horseshoe Ranch, and I read Plague and The Stand, Stephen King's The Stand, and I think I read them both in 1979, and I was hooked, man. So this is one of my favorite subgenres of horror and science fiction. Yeah. And this movie is like the 2001 of plague stories or virulent disease stories. I mean, I love how real it feels, and I love how the science seems pretty solid, and I love how the scientists are working together like a team. It's not just one person is standing out as the one who figures it all out. And there is tension. I mean, I do like there is the tension there. All these scientists are really good at their jobs. Like a real relationship. Like when she's annoyed with him because he's taking so long, she's like, come on, it's on the inside of the satellite, not on the outside. Why are we, and she's kind of getting annoyed that he's just keeps like looking at the outside. But then they do movie things like she's epileptic, so
She
so
is.
flashing lights can put her into a seizure, and that comes into play
It does.
a couple of times, and I love that because if they made this movie now, one of the scientists would go nuts. They would have the scientists crack under the pressure.
Yes.
Like in The Abyss, when
Yeah.
Michael Bihn's character goes crazy from the
Yes.
pressure underwater. But in this film,
Yeah.
all of the doctors are very capable,
And there isn't just one. I mean, in the end, it's like there's not just one man standing. It's
No.
like the whole team succeeds.
yeah, the whole team succeeds, and they, well, what ends up happening is throughout the course, they realize what's happened. They realize that if these nukes go off, they'll create superclusters, so they have to stop that from happening. But then at the end, what they don't understand is that this disease can eat away rubber, and it can. And there's a great moment where a plane that's flying surveillance over Piedmont, the pilot of the plane, who presumably was the same pilot who took pictures at the beginning of the movie. There's this great moment where you see his air mask starts to disintegrate, like that his oxygen that he's getting inside the cockpit of his plane, it disintegrates the rubber around the mask, and he succumbs to the disease, even though he's 20,000 feet in the air, and the plane crashes. That ups the stakes even more.
Yeah.
And the doctors have no idea. They don't know why the plane crashed. And then it's just a matter of time before all of these rubber gaskets and things that they've been using to keep the Wildfire Lab secure are going to all disintegrate.
Yes.
And then as things start to go get the tense as they are, suddenly there's a rupture, and the doctors they're all compromised, and what can they do? And some of them are sequestered away, and they don't know if they're going to die, but they make leaps. They figure out what to do, and they figure out why the baby and the old man survive for various reasons.
Yeah, the baby was crying all the time.
Yeah, because the acid, the way it works, when oxygen in the blood.
Right, and breathing quickly somehow keeps it from,
But what's great is then the levels start getting contaminated. Level 5 gets contaminated, and it's all locked down. And the nuke at the end is going to go off in 5 minutes.
Yes, there's 5 minutes.
And so
the guy with the key,
or odd man out.
Well, the door's, shut down, and so there's no way for him to use the key to turn it off. So they're like, oh shit, what are we going to do? We have 5 minutes. And so he's like, well, how can I get through to the next level? And they're like, well, there's a door, vent.
Into the central core.
Into the central core. But it's through the room where the patients are. And so he's like, well, you're going to have to go through there. So by then they had discovered also that the virus has mutated to a point where it is no longer affecting humans. It's not killing humans anymore.
Right.
It has mutated past that. So, but they're still not sure, right?
Not in the wild, it probably hasn't, but in the lab, it has.
In the lab. So he's taking a chance, but they only have 5 minutes. So he goes through. He gets into that suit, and then he has the nurse cut it off the I don't even know, and he goes through the door. And then goes into the central core. And
the central corridor it's armed with lasers.
Yes.
So if animals ever escape into the central core, these computer-controlled lasers will target you and shoot and kill these animals.
Yes.
So he has to go up the multiple levels while these lasers are tracking him.
Yep.
And get up to like the third or the third level where he still can put in the key in.
He went to the 4th level, and that was shut down, so he couldn't get through. So he had to go all the way up to the 2nd or 3rd level.
Now, what did you think of this scene? Was it tense for you?
It was tense because the minutes are ticking away, and he's going up these stairs, and at first he's dodging the laser, and then all of a sudden one of the lasers gets him in the arm, and then it makes him disoriented and dizzy, and he's having a hard time continuing. But he finds the strength and he keeps going. And
then he gets shot in the face.
He gets shot in the face.
And it's hardcore, man. It's just, he gets shot. It's so painful. You're looking at this going, oh, man.
Did it go all the way through?
It probably did. It's brutal. And he's in shock.
He's in shock.
And he's trying to stop himself from passing out, and it's really, really harrowing.
Yes. And so he gets to the corridor, and there's a nurse there, and she's freaking out seeing
She thinks
him.
he has the disease.
Yeah, she thinks he's contaminated because he came from the lower levels, and she freaks out, and she kind of backs off.
And he's like, help me, because he's about to pass out.
Right, but she freaks out and runs away.
And it is very movie here. They really stretch out the suspense
They
as he
do.
can't quite get there.
And so he crawls there, and he puts the key in, and then he kind of collapses, and he hasn't turned it. And then it goes down to 9 seconds, and he turns the key.
And stops the nuke from going
stops
off.
with 9 seconds remaining.
And then at the end, Dr. Hill is addressing Congress about, like, what happened.
Yeah.
And the insinuation is that this can happen again, but it might be even worse. So, Elizabeth, what did you think of the Andromeda Strain?
I loved this film. I thought it was smart. It was... it really kept my attention. I loved it. I thought it was great.
I mean, it's not. I really like the docudrama feel of it, the
Yes.
procedural nature of it. This film is a movie that is populated entirely by adults who are really good at their jobs, who come together in a way. You could remake this as a Star Trek episode. I mean, indeed they have.
I was thinking that this felt very Star Trek, or even very Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
But
I just love the idea of capable doctors coming together, really smart people doing really smart things, and everybody acts smart. The military is really trying to help out. They're not vilified in this, even though they kind of are in the sense that, they were looking for... You find out that the Wildfire Lab, they do biowarfare, and they're gaming out all this stuff. So sure, there is this sinister element to the military in this. But that's more like utilitarian. Of course the military would do that.
Of course.
But, I mean, at least all the military are on it. And there isn't... If this movie were made today, there would be the evil military operative that's embedded in the team, with them to add the extra fly in the ointment that's going to stop them, like in The Abyss. We're going to go get those nuclear weapons and blow up the aliens.
That's right.
Because I have pressure sickness.
Exactly. But I appreciate that it didn't have that.
Right. And it's funny, in a way...
That makes it feel more real. It felt real. Like, this could really have happened.
And I think, even 49 years later, aside from the teletype stuff, I mean, maybe younger viewers would be like, why does this technology look so archaic? But the underground lab is so cool that it's sort of... And what they have to go through to be decontaminated doesn't feel archaic. And there's a really good use of visual effects in this movie. It's sparing, but it's really... really well done.
You could, if you were watching it now, think of it as a period piece. Like, this is a piece about that time period.
You're right. Like, this really happened in 1973 or whatever. It really
happened in 1973, and you're watching a documentary about what happened.
Well, they basically... it's funny you say that, because they do have a disclaimer at the beginning.
Yeah.
They basically... That's what they do. They make you think that this actually happened in 1973. See? Now, as we...
So you can accept the technology because that was the technology of the time.
Yeah, like if you go in, if you want to show this movie to somebody, just tell the person you're showing it to that this is based on a true story.
Oh my God.
Because, I mean, that's the best way to look at it. Like, if you look at this as a period piece of something that actually happened, I mean...
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, that's what they should do, based on a true story, and just say that. Because that's what Michael Crichton did with his books. He would come out and say, well, this is a true story.
Yeah.
But it's I think it's great. It's definitely in the upper echelons of the great films of science fiction, and it's certainly, I mean, the period of about 1967 through 1976, through the release of Logan's Run, pre-Star Wars. There's a great bunch of movies. This movie works really well with Colossus, the Forbin Project, and of course Rollerball and The Ultimate Warrior and Soylent Green and the Omega Man and the Planet of the Apes sequels. I mean, there's a lot of great... But this also is in the upper echelons of best science fiction films ever made, I think, of all time. And, I mean, nowadays, I don't think most people would put it in their top 10 or even top 20, but at the time, it definitely was top 10. I mean, wouldn't you think?
For sure.
And then, of course, Robert Wise went on to direct Star Trek: The Motion Picture. he directed Star Trek: The Motion Picture. Well, he shot it
Well, there you go.
8 years later. Yeah,
V'ger.
V'ger. So,
Right up there.
V'ger is. You can see it. V'ger's right there's V'ger, right there. It looks like a sex toy, but it's not. It's V'ger. Well, I'm glad you like this movie. I would highly recommend, if you like science fiction films, to watch this film because it's great.
It is.
Now, we have a letter, and this letter comes from Lubna Khan.
Oh.
Lubna Khan wrote this letter. Hello. Regarding Rocky, FWIW, speaking as a woman who has seen Rocky and has zero interest in seeing any of the other films, I very much enjoyed Rocky. It was surprisingly heartfelt with a lovely love story.
Yes.
Elizabeth, you're getting Somewhere in Time mixed up with The Love Letter. Both films where a modern-day man comes into contact with, and falls in love with, obviously, a woman in times of yore. Speaking again as a woman, who loves period dramas no less, I must say that I much preferred Rocky. And I preferred the love story in Rocky as well. There were some nice dresses in the films, however. Note, of course I tend to prefer such things as Jane Austen or Charlotte Bronte, so there's that. Make of this whatever you will, if anything. I thought I'd just chime in as the subject was raised.
Yes.
Lubna.
Okay.
By the way, I don't know if Lubna Khan's your real name, but what a great name that is. I love that name. Let's see who's here and what you guys have to say. That Willow's for tomorrow. The Richard sent in a super chat and says, Aloha, Liz and Rob. Special thanks to Kaz Graphics. I received an amazing selection of cheese.
Nice.
Please check out Beecher's. Beecher's cheese is so good. Isn't it great?
Wow. The cheesemonger.
The cheesemonger delivers to the Richard. Love it. Love and aloha to you all.
Very cool. Well, enjoy that. The smoked cheese
Smoked
is
cheese.
amazing.
200 Watt Studio sends in a super chat and says the Arrow Blu-ray of this film is fantastic. Yes, it is. I'm happy to have it in my collection. Timbula the Spider Monkey says, when I was a child, my local cinema would do double features every Sunday, a new film and an older one. In 1983, I was 7, and my grandfather took me to see War Games, and the older film they played with it was the Andromeda strain. We both enjoyed that one more. You know what, though? That's a good double feature. I really like War Games. I think it's good. Julius Goodwin is here. Hello, Julius.
Hello.
On the Whining About Movies show with Rocky, you mentioned you thought I was cultured. Let me assure you that I'm not. In fact, I'm really just some rube from the Carolinas. I just Googled Stephen Amell and wine, and that's how I found the pink wine for dudes. Well, you know what? Maybe, I might have thought you were cultured, but maybe the dead giveaway was sending us pink wine for dudes, with dudes high-fiving on the label. I mean, you could have been cheeky, but I don't know, Julius. I think you're more cultured than you think you are. I don't think you're just a rube from the Carolinas. I did spend a month in South Carolina when I was younger, and I love the Carolinas. And
Carolinas are beautiful.
There's lots of sophisticated people there, so don't sell yourself short, sir. Don't do that, but that's very funny.
It's hilarious.
Mark C. said, this is one of those rare films where if you saw the movie, you read the book. Yeah, I absolutely could believe that. I mean, I think that...
I should read the book.
I love Crichton's books, so... not so much his later stuff that he did before his death. He died when he was 66 years old, and it's very sad. I mean, he created ER, Jurassic Park.
ER.
I mean, he had a great career. He directed movies like The Great Train Robbery and Runaway and Looker and, of course, Westworld. I mean, he created Westworld. Kaz Graphics, our cheesemonger. Not only was he selling cheese or sending cheese to the Richard and us, but he says, I've never seen this, but we'll check it out tomorrow. Thanks for the recommendation. Well, that's one of the things we like about Whining About Movies is that we get to recommend films that are good. And for science fiction fans, it's great.
Yeah.
John is here, and he says, Mr. Mixoplitic. I would say Mixoplitic, but hey, he's a Superman character. Great film. Thanks for doing this one. Well, I'm glad you've seen it. This was one that I think gets often overlooked when people talk about the great science fiction films now. They've been overshadowed by, science fiction films. This is really truly science fiction in the sense that you're dealing with the future and scientists and an extraterrestrial disease. What a great premise. And there's no action, there's no monsters or spaceships, or there is lasers, but it is pretty great.
Yeah.
Mark C sends in a super chat and says, totally unrelated to the movie, but what are the green, red, and blue books over your left shoulder? My left shoulder? The green, red, and blue? Well, if you'd like to know, the red one is the... Hey, wait on. Let me the red one is the ginormous Jack Kirby Fourth World Omnibus. I mean, look at this thing. You could totally, work out with this. It's so huge. Feel how heavy this is.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's heavy.
So that's the Jack Kirby Fourth World Omnibus. Now, not to be left behind, this the green one is the Jack Kirby Commandy, The Last Boy on Earth Omnibus. Now, let's see. Now the blue one is the Jsa Omnibus Volume 2 that people tell me is quite rare. I did not know that. Every time I pull this out, I'm like, I need to get the third one. I do not have the third one. But that's what they are. And if you met the blue one on the other side, hang on, let me put this back.
It's show and tell.
It is. It's show and tell time. And the other side is the Justice League, the Detroit era omnibus. I know some people are like, the Detroit era? I'm like, yeah, I like the Justice League. What can I say? Even the Detroit era. So there you go, Mark C. Uh-oh. That wasn't good.
What'd you do?
I just I hit the wrong button. But hold on.
No.
Hold on. Let's see.
This is not good.
Oh no. I can just hang on.
How can you get it back? Oh. You're almost there.
I'm almost there, but
No.
I have to hit my dashboard and go back to where I was. Sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen. That was a technical snafu of my own making.
There you go.
Okay. 200 Watt Studio sends in a super chat and says, first episode, $6 Million Man uses the footage of the town in this film for the episode. Steve Austin uses his spacesuit to match the footage. You are correct, 200 Watt Studio. And let me tell you something. I saw that too. And you remember that? Okay, he is exactly right. But in that, there's like a SWAT van that has a transmitter that's transmitting something. And there's a great moment where Steve Austin pulls out like one of those, when they put concrete into a can and then they put the fence, the wood thing. And there's this great thing where he uses his bionic power and pulls that out of the ground and throws it, and it takes out the SWAT van. That is correct. That is the very first episode of The $6 Million Man.
I loved that show. And we had the action figure. Did you?
Oh, come on, man.
Do you still have it?
No.
I wish I had mine.
Yeah.
I loved it because you could look through his eye.
You could look through his eye and roll up his skin. And if you buy it on the secondary market, it's really hard to find the roll-up skin because it deteriorated, not unlike...
I don't remember the roll-up skin.
Yeah, the roll-up skin where you see his bionic things that you can take out.
Yes, that's right.
Did you have the operating thing that also turned into the rocket ship?
I don't think so.
Did you have Maskatron?
What's that?
Maskatron was a robot that had Oscar Goldman's face and he had swappable faces.
No.
And the reason I had Maskatron...
Was there a van? Was the van part of the... I feel like we had the...
Maybe. I
feel like we had the van.
I didn't have the van, but did you have the Bionic Woman? Jamie Summers? Did you have the blow-up dome house?
No.
We did.
No, just the Bionic Man.
Just the Bionic Man, okay. Well.
And I think we had his van. But I had Wonder Woman.
Anonymous says, I would like to suggest the mods stop spamming the chat. I don't know. Are they? I don't know. Are they spamming the chat? What are they? Mods, are you spamming the chat? Don't spam the chat. Please make your mods do a little less advertising so I can enjoy the chat. I agree. The Richard, we don't. One or two ads is good. But our mods do a great job though. But yes, the Anonymous has spoken. I have spoken.
Anonymously.
Eric White sends in a tip and says, "Hey guys, just wondering if you will ever review a little movie called Free Enterprise. I would love to hear Elizabeth critique Rob's character getting a blowjob while driving. Not very responsible, Rob. Pretty cool though. Man, if I actually depicted what really happened in real life in that scene,
Okay.
not so good. No, would you like to critique that scene?
Yes, I would actually, and the threesome.
And the three. I don't know. I think it'd be a little too self-serving.
Maybe I should do it with my best friend Julia.
Yeah, that's it.
That would be
yeah,
fun.
well, a special guest. Mixyez Plitlik says, Mark C. You know what? No one ever says it. Mixyez Pitalik.
I don't know.
I used to say Mixelplik. I don't know. So it's Mixyez Plitlik. We could do that. We could do that. Let me make sure I didn't miss anybody here. Let me see. I think that was okay. Oh, I did. No, I did. The green red books over your left shoulder. So there you go. Yes. So Dr. Hibbert is here. Actually, wait. Hang on. Doc Savage is here and says, "Can I please hear a little bit more about the Star Trek series? Very excited." Oh, about our Star Trek series.
Oh.
Well, so Elizabeth and I are going to do a show called The Heart of Trek, A Couple's Guide to the Final Frontier.
Yep.
And we are actually going to start that show. What's today's date?
Today is...
We're going to start that show next week.
How about the week after next week? Because my finals are next
Oh,
week.
that's what I mean. The week after. I'm sorry. Yes, we're starting the week after your finals.
Yes.
So you're done with your finals a week from Friday.
Yes.
So we're gonna start. We could maybe start on Sunday.
Perfect.
Yeah, we'll start on Sunday. So we will start a week from Sunday, and our first episode is going to be Where No Man Has Gone Before, the second Star Trek pilot. That's what we're going to start. We're not going to start with the Man Trap. We're starting with the second pilot.
I'm so excited.
And we're not watching The Cage. We're going to watch what The Cage
we
became.
will.
No, we're watching it as The Menagerie. We're not just watching The Cage. The Cage was never aired as part of original Star
So
Trek.
we're not watching it at all?
Well, we're going to watch it as it's incorporated
Well,
into the
that's
two
what I
parts.
mean.
Yeah, we're watching The Menageries. So, yeah.
So
there you
we'll
go.
watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
Yes. Free Enterprise. Dr. Hibbert is here. Claude is here. Bonjour, mon ami. Long time no super chat. I was stationed at Vandenberg Air Force Base in the middle 90s. I love the Star Trek-like aspect of this movie in which a team of subject matter experts work together to solve a problem. Well,
Yes.
Claude, when you were there, did they have Project Scoop? And was there ever an extraterrestrial virus incursion that you were privy to that you can't talk about because it's a matter of national
And
security?
Does Wildfire really exist?
Yeah, does the Wildfire Lab really exist? Can you tell us? Are they going to finally get around?
Have you been there? Have you been to the 5th level?
Yeah, have you been to the 5th level?
Did
And
you go through all the decontamination?
I mean, if we have alien technology, as we seem to, and the government knows all about it, there must be biological components to that. There must be some kind of extra stuff.
Yep.
Gerald sends in a tip and says, regarding Free Enterprise, do you own the rights to it? I do not. The rights are owned by the man who paid for the movie, Mark Gottwald, and what I would like to do, since I have produced all the previous versions, I think that I would have to buy the rights from him. I would just buy the movie outright, and I do want to do what I would call my Final Frontier cut. I would do a new edit of it, make it definitive, because there's not one edit in Free Enterprise I wouldn't want to change. And you wouldn't know. If you watch the movie, you wouldn't know. I would just change it very subtly in terms of, we're talking frames. But I would like to do a 4K restoration of the whole film. Mm-hmm. But yes, money is the only obstacle. And to be honest, it costs about $100,000 to do just a transfer of a film that's a negative to 4K. So the process would be that I would first have to buy the rights from Mark Gottwald, pay him, and then I would take the film, I would transfer all the negative. Now, the version I did, my preferred version is the 2006 version. I would also have to go and transfer all of that negative. And when I did the 2006 version, there were 2 scenes that I didn't have access to the negative, and they were the Logan's Run Dreep sequence that I would expand a bit, and there was a scene with Robert and Claire that I couldn't get access to because we didn't have the original tapes that the footage was transferred to, so I didn't know where the negative was. So what I want to do is what I would call the Final Frontier version, and just tweak it all and basically accordioning it down and make it feel modern. And then it would be a widescreen aspect ratio. It wouldn't be 1:8:5. It would be 2:3:9:1, because that's how I was composing anyway. But we never got to do that because it would have been too expensive at the time. So that's what I would like to do. And I can't do a Kickstarter to get the rights from Mark because I can't guarantee that I could get them. But yes, I would like to get the film out on 4K. I would really like to do that. And money is the obstacle. But you'd need to buy the rights, and then minimum you'd actually need about $150,000 to remaster the whole film and do a new sound mix. So that's where we're at.
Great if you could do that.
There. Yeah, I'd love to do that. So Elizabeth.
Yes.
We are over our time, which brings us to the Whining About Movies rating scale, which is, of course, our bottoms-up scale. What is our bottoms-up scale?
So our bottoms-up scale is from 1 to 4 glasses, because there are 4 glasses of wine in a bottle.
And on a scale of 1 to 4 glasses, what would you give Robert Wise's 1971 The Andromeda Strain?
I will give this film 3.5 glasses.
3.5 glasses. Mm-hmm. I give this film 4 glasses of wine. I think this film is a seminal science fiction film. It's still relevant today, and especially if, as you pointed out, if you look at it as a period piece, something that's actually happened. It really began Michael Crichton's career in filmmaking.
Yes.
I mean, it's interesting to think that he sold this novel that he wrote in 1969. The movie came out in 71. And then he wrote and directed Westworld, which came out in 1973.
I would love to see that.
I have it. So, pretty interesting. So I'm giving this 4 glasses of wine, and you give it...
Cool.
Now, Friday, tomorrow, we're also doing a Whining About Movies, and it's Romantic Friday. Have you picked a movie?
Yes.
Really?
I have 3 choices.
So you haven't picked one?
You're going to choose.
I'm going to choose. Uh-oh.
Okay. The 3 choices are Say Anything.
Say Anything. Good one.
The Shape of Water.
The Shape of Water. Good one.
Or Avatar.
Avatar. That's a long one.
Wait, there's a 4th one.
Okay.
Is that too many?
No, because I'm not going to pick. The audience is going to pick.
Or I was thinking Slumdog Millionaire.
Ooh, I have all of those on Blu-ray. Okay, audience, we're throwing it out to you.
Quickly.
Tomorrow, we've got 4 choices. We got Say Anything, we've got The Shape of Water, we have Avatar, and then we have Slumdog Millionaire. What movie should we do for Romantic Friday?
Well, we've got a Shape of Water, Say Anything. Say Anything. That's 2.
I don't have Innocent Blood on Blu-ray yet, but I'll get it.
2 for Say Anything.
Shape of Water.
2 for Shape of Water.
No Avatar. Slumdog Millionaire from Penny
1
Coffin.
for Slumdog. None for Avatar. Avatar. Casablanca. Okay. Oh, we have an Avatar. Drum roll.
Time Bandits.
3 for Say Anything.
3
for Shape of Water. 4 for Shape of Water. Oh my God.
No,
my head
Say
is
Anything
spinning.
too.
Oh, this is hard.
Slumdog, Say Anything. Not Shape of Water. I think we should do Say Anything. It's more fitting in line with the...
Okay.
So we're calling it. We're doing Cameron Crowe's Say Anything.
Say anything.
Say Anything with John Cusack and Ione Skye.
Then maybe next week we'll do The Shape of Water, because that's a lot of people are saying Shape of Water.
A lot of people are saying Shape of Water. Avatar is too long.
All right, then.
And I've got the extended version of
So
Avatar,
let's say
which is
this.
even longer.
Say Anything tomorrow and Shape of Water next Friday.
Okay, we'll do that. All
There
right.
you go.
Well, so brings an end to Elizabeth's 65, Robert Wise's 1971. Richard says, not sure why you named me, although spam is popular in Hawaii. They were just saying mods, man. You're the king of the mods now. They're your team.
Oh.
Sifo Claudius. That's pretty good. Have you guys listened to Katrina Longworth's podcast? Remember This? I have. She did a great series of legendary producer Polly Plath. It has a great background on Say Anything. Ooh, that'd be good to listen to. Maybe we'll do that. So we're doing Say Anything tomorrow. That's a good idea.
People also like Slim Dogs, so we'll do that the following week.
Jai Ho.
So we have 3 romantic movies already picked out. There you go, Richard. Now you can do watch parties.
We're gonna watch. Yeah, that's what we'll do. All right. Well, we're gonna end this episode. Robert Wise's 1971 and the Andromeda Strain. A good episode, fine episode.
Yes.
All right, Elizabeth. So why don't you take us out?
All right. So, everyone you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear, and all you have to do is listen.
All you have to do is listen. And what else?
Have a better night.
Have a better night. But before that, I want to thank my moderating staff. I want to thank the Richard for being the king moderator. I thank Mike Bodden and Greg Smith and Mr. Derringer and Robert Priso and Joshua Levesque. And, of course, the Richard for putting on watch parties. If you go to the Post-Geek Singularity Facebook page or the Whining About Movies Facebook page, find the Richard and join his watch parties and his Zoom parties. I also want to thank all of you that generously support the channel. And if you want to write letters or send me videos like
Send
BL Alley's
videos.
ongoing series of videos,
Which I have to say I find hilarious.
I know you do. And BL Alley's videos have not stopped. And they're going to continue on. So if you want to send in videos and make fun of us wantonly, you are welcome to do that. You can go to the Burnettwork.net website. It is open and ready for business. And you can see at the top a place where you can contact us and send us letters. I will read letters on Robservations and play videos on Robservations or WINEning. If you want to send, just tell us which show, whether it's Robservations or WINEning About Movies. And if you would like to send letters to the Heart of Trek, a couple's guide to the final frontier, you can do that.
Yes.
So we are going to be talking about Where No Man Has Gone Before, the second Star Trek pilot that actually aired third when Star Trek originally aired back in '66. But we're watching it first because it was the second pilot. It was stupid that it aired after The Man Trap and Charlie X. So we're watching Where No Man Has Gone Before first, then The Man Trap, then Charlie X, and then we're going to continue on. Your favorite episode.
Can we skip over that one?
We're not going to skip over Charlie X. I want to stay. So anyway, so the Heart of Trek is coming, and that'll be fun. So get in on the action now.
It will be fun.
And on that note, I want to thank all of you for being here. And from all of us to all of you, we should have a catchphrase. Keep whining.
Keep whining.
Keep whining.
Keep whining.
About the movies. And we'll see you tomorrow.